here's Brody Brazil.
Let's see, how do I put this? If you're somebody who can read the writing on the wall, if you're somebody who can read between the lines, if you're somebody who can read the tea leaves, then certainly you're understanding right now that the options for the Rays to actually stay in Tampa Bay, they continue to dwindle. And the latest development is this, a 50-acre development, Ybor City, the Ybor site, the Ybor Ballpark, whatever you want to call it. This, at one point, is what the Rays were planning in the city of Tampa. Well, the developer there is now putting this together. It's now an area called Gasworx, but the developer has said, as of a few days ago, there's no more room left. That ship has sailed. The planning has taken place. They're moving on. There's no room at this ideal site to build a ballpark as they were once discussing for the city of Tampa. So that kind of crosses off a very big option from the list here. As we take a big step back here, the bigger picture looks like this. I firmly believe that the Rays are going to stay in the state of Florida. Now, a lot of people here in the comments section on this YouTube channel have been saying, I'm trying to will them to Orlando because I keep talking about Orlando, but that's not it at all. As I said at the beginning of this video, you can kind of see the direction that this is going and how some of these options of staying in Tampa Bay are dwindling. Let's talk about St. Pete for a second. They still have the land, right? The gas plant, not to be confused with Gasworks, the gas plant district. It surrounds Tropicana Field. That's where the Rays had pitched their deal that the city and the county approved, and the Rays backed out of it. So they've got the land. They've got an option in St. Pete. It may not be the most convenient or best option, but they have an option. Big problem is right now, politicians for Pinellas County and the city of St. Petersburg, they are completely burnt out. I said here on the team, but really it's the team's ownership and Stu Sternberg. They're very upset that the team pitched something, they passed it, and then the team backed out of it. They are basically, from what I can understand, currently unwilling to work with the Rays under their current ownership. So how do you see a long-term deal getting done here? They're also still kind of working on the temporary situation of Tropicana Field. More on that in a second. They have approved the upgrades and the repairs to the roof, but nothing else on the inside of Tropicana Field yet. Okay, so let's talk about Tampa. Politically, they seem willing. Their politicians and the city council and the county, they've gone ahead to say, we'll have this conversation when it's time. And maybe behind the scenes, there's been a lot of conversation. And we should also make this very clear. The Gasworks site, that Ybor site, it's not the only one in Tampa. It was just the best one that a lot of people had been talking about, including the Rays, for a lot of years. So this is kind of significant that it's getting crossed off the list. The Rays are, from what I understand, doing quite well in Tampa right now at Steinbrenner Field, the minor league home of the Yankees. When I say well, I mean as well as you can be doing in a single-A spring training stadium. They're drawing well. People seem to enjoy it so far. They're obviously also outdoors, which I don't think is going to play as well in the months of July and August when we start getting the weather changing. But now cross off, like I said, the biggest and best and most renowned site in Tampa. That's not an option for the Rays anymore. The Ybor site is not an option. That's a big deal. I can't emphasize what a big deal that is, because now you've got a place like Orlando, 90 miles up the road in Central Florida. The Dreamers, within the last week or two, have declared that they have $2.5 billion committed and ready for Major League Baseball. $1.5 billion for the team, whether that's an expansion fee or starting a new team or buying a team that currently exists. And they've also got a separate $1 billion for building a ballpark there. They say it's a good deal for Orange County of Orlando proper, that the county will want to be in on the deal that they're ready to put forth. So $1 billion for the ballpark, $1.5 billion for the team. Again, if you look at all of this, what's the easiest direction? If you own the Rays, which is the direction you go here? The most lucrative, the easiest to pull off? This seems off the map. This seems a little bit more difficult now. And this one, on the bottom, seems the easiest. But does it mean selling the team? Does it mean just moving the team to Orlando? More on that in just a second. More here on Tampa's best site. About 50 acres bordering Ybor City in the Channel District are being transformed into Gasworks, this according to the Tampa Bay Times. A mega development headed up by Tampa business mogul Darryl Shaw and Virginia-based real estate firm Kettler. Once completed, it will include dining, shopping, offices, and thousands of apartments. But Unless the Rays can build a very tiny stadium, end quote, a ballpark isn't in the cards. Tyrrell, Kettler's managing developer of Florida, told reporters at a tour of the site on Friday. So this was late last week. They took the media on a tour of this Gasworx site. You know the question came up like, so is there still space here for the Rays if the city of Tampa can work this out, if you guys can work this out? Still, Tyrrell noted that building a stadium elsewhere in the neighborhood, I should say, would be a great amenity for Tampa. But therein lies the question, where's another 14, 16 plus acres that you'd need just for the domed stadium alone in this neighborhood? I don't know if you're going to find it. This was 50 acres at Gasworx. Tyrrell said, quote, "We've gone past the point where we could include a stadium within Gasworx. The ship has sailed." And there he is, literally at the podium saying that the other day. So for as much as there were renderings and talk about this, and this was the hype, this was the big Tampa option, it's no longer out there. This development, this first phase, is going to conclude, I think, in 2027. This is just the first phase of development. When all is said and done, Gasworx will add 5,000 residents, 500,000 square feet of office space, and 150,000 square feet of retail. Tyrrell said the goal of the project is to create a walkable community with plenty of public amenities that connects Tampa's urban core. And again, this would have been, for location, for amenities, for surroundings, this would have been ideal for a Major League Baseball stadium. So the Rays situation currently looks like this on the short term. Yeah, the $22.5 million, it's been approved to fix the roof only at Tropicana Field. The internals are still not approved for repair. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, you need to fix the roof first. But St. Petersburg is doing this in pretty diligent form and fashion. They're only approving the roof now. They'll see what the Rays plan on doing for years to come before they fix the insides. The Rays are paying $15.5 million for this one season at Steinbrenner Field. This is a temporary deal. So how many more temporary situations are there going to be? Could they go back to Tropicana Field for 3 more years and then in the meantime square Orlando away, build a ballpark there, and then just up and out and have 3 lame duck seasons? There's kind of precedent for what the West Sacramento Athletics are doing right now in trying to make that maneuver. I'm not saying that it's going well. I'm not saying that it's an ideal option, but the Rays can just point over and say, well, they're doing it. Why can't we? A new stadium deal like we talked about before for St. Pete, it was approved. City and county all on board, funded, financed, all that. But the Rays officially backed out, and now there's just that sour feeling in St. Pete. Unfortunately, St. Pete is kind of crossed off the list. And if Tampa is really difficult, it just brings me back to this. Orlando is pushing so hard. They're entering the conversation, and they keep entering the conversation. I mean, what the Dreamers have done here is kind of just put themselves in the driver's seat. Nobody's stopping them from making progress and continuing to acquire financial commitments. And now there's a lot of things they're actually doing behind the scenes to prepare for an inevitable move of a team or getting an expansion franchise. I think a move would happen way before trying to get an expansion team, and a move is way more likely than getting an expansion Major League Baseball team at this point. The Dreamers recently announced the $1.5 billion for the team. Like I said before, the stadium funding of $1 billion, but even more than all that, they're adding staff members. They're hiring people to work for a baseball team that doesn't yet exist. Like, that's how serious they are about this. They're also planning to move from where they're currently at to a more downtown and more permanent headquarters in Orlando. Like, they're spending on this. They're not just talking about money. They're not just putting it together, signing contracts and shaking hands. They're actually starting to do this. And if you think about that versus Tampa versus St. Pete, you tell me how this is going to play out any different than Orlando. It certainly seems like it's angled in that direction right now. So here are my takeaways on the entire situation. Number one, I think in terms of Major League Baseball and the wider scale opinion of the league and of the team owners, all they feel like is if, hey, the Rays stay in Florida, that's a win for us. And I'm not here to say that that's the best or the most appropriate reaction to any of this at all. Certainly not what I favor. You know how I feel. I don't like teams moving for no specific reason, and especially because a hurricane ripped up a stadium and then a team backed out of a stadium deal that maybe they just flat out couldn't afford anymore. Something they promised, right? Here to stay until they weren't. But to Major League Baseball and its owners and its commissioner, they'll probably just approve the team moving to Orlando. Hey, staying in Florida, that's all we really promised. Well, they just talked about how Tampa Bay, Commissioner Manfred talked about how Tampa Bay was a viable baseball market. And now Orlando is really pressing the issue, pressing the conversation. We'll see where it goes. Has Stuart Sternberg, by the way, ever promised staying in Tampa Bay, either the city of Tampa or St. Pete? This is the same Rays team that, as of 4 years ago, I think it was 2021, right? Late 21 of the summer when they said, we need to actually split our season between St. Pete and Montreal. So you know that Stuart Sternberg is not opposed to moving his team, splitting his team, relocating his team. Certainly more than selling the team. It feels like moving the team would be more of an option. So again, this is where it starts to get a little bit questionable and maybe messy with Orlando. Would the Rays be sold to the ownership group in Orlando? Or would the Rays take the opportunity under Stuart Sternberg to try and move into a ballpark that Orlando and those developers would want to build? Do they merge? Do the Rays get bought out? Or do these two sides merge and become something different up in Orlando? Maybe Sternberg sells half the team or 49% of the team. There's a lot of options there, but ultimately what matters most, do the Rays actually relocate to Orlando? St. Pete right now, clearly in no rush. They're not sparking the conversation. They're not saying, hey, we want to talk, come back to us, come back to the table. They're still fumed off of what just transpired. Again, Tampa just lost its most ideal site option, the one that everybody talked about for years. Gone, done, not available anymore, and Orlando only gets louder. So again, I didn't mean to repeat myself as many times, but I need to make these points very clear. There's no room left at the best site in Tampa. St. Pete is idle. Orlando is pushing on a weekly basis. Major League Baseball doesn't really care. They just want this to be a problem solved and a solution found. And if Orlando is as turnkey as you would expect, then that might be what gets approved, which is amazing because Orlando, by the way, I'll leave you with this fact, has never had a Major League Baseball team. I think you already know that. But did you also know that Orlando has not even had a professional minor league team since 2003? It's been a while since there's even been professional baseball in Orlando. I'm not suggesting that the Orlando market doesn't work. It's just another unknown in the recent history chapters of this Rays franchise. That's the end of this video. I appreciate you for making it this far. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video. That helps me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button like right now. That way I definitely get to see you back here next time.